welcome to another special episode of Supernatural Stories. For today, we are going to be counting down the top 4 ghost story of season 6. We have already done 29 supernatural stories. Imagine that. Wow. So, let's start with number 4. So, for number 4, it will be the white-faced ghost amulet ghost story. Let's have a look. So, the second story is also about an amulet that he bought online. And the story is from Mr. Ang via Instagram direct message, where he recalled his encounter. This story happened to me 4 years ago. I was looking online for an amulet as I was a Thai occult collector. So, I came across this listing for a certain amulet. I contacted the buyer and we agreed on a price. So, the day came where I met the buyer and bought the amulet. Nothing strange happened at first until it was the second night. On the second night, I came home late, roughly around 10 p.m. And when I reached home, my mother told me there were rattling noise coming from my room. So I said maybe it was her imagination and there should be nothing there. I then took a shower and slept by 1 a.m. Suddenly, I woke up. The time was 3 a.m. I sit up on my bed and look around the dark room, thinking what could have waked me up. And the only light in my room was coming from my window, which is the moonlight. After looking around, I lay back down on my bed. As I lay down, I faced towards my window, and what I saw at the corner of my window was a white face. The face looked terrifying, and it was staring at me with a smile. I suddenly stood up and shouted, thinking what it was as I stay on the 7th floor. I ran out of my room and turned the lights on. After that, when I looked back into my room, the thing disappeared. The following day, strange things started to happen even more. I can hear banging noise and sounds of furniture moving. So what I did was to get rid of that amulet. Till today, I can still remember the terrifying face I saw on the window staring at me. So it's quite scary buying amulet online and not knowing the history of it and what it has inside it. So please be careful when you buy amulets online. So let's go to the next, number 3, which is the Pocong Bedok Soft ghost story. Have a listen. Enjoy this video from Joe. This story is from Joe. I've always been interested in the paranormal because they are the unknown and they are something not backed up by science. I do believe in them like Pontianak, Pocongs and all. But I have not seen one until today, this day. This story happened to me about 8 years ago. One day, me and my friend had a plan. We stayed in the east at Bedok, so we wanted to hunt for ghosts that day. Equipped with torchlight and our camera phones, we planned to go to a cemetery in Bedok South. So, that day, the time was already 12 midnight and it was a Thursday night. We reached the graveyard and looking at the place already gave me goosebumps. We went into the graveyard, going off track, entering deeper. While walking, We took some photos and some audio recordings, seeing nothing until one photo we captured. What it seems to be a Muslim dead corpse behind a tree, also known as a pocong. When looking closely at the photo, me and my friend suddenly heard a noise coming from a direction. When we turned our heads to look at it, what we saw was a pocong in the distance behind the gravestone looking at us. My friend and I looked at each other and faced back at the pocong just to see the pocong was hopping towards us. Scared, we ran as fast as we could as if our life depended on it. Halfway running through, we looked back just to see nothing there. So in the heart-racing moment, my friend and I said we should go home. This is the thing I regretted and should have known, as many people said that after going to haunted places, it's not good to go straight home. So, when I reached home in Bedok North, there was no one home as my family works at night. I went straight to the toilet, and after that, I went to the living room to chill. Suddenly, while sitting on the sofa, I heard someone knocking on my door. Thinking it was my friend, I opened the door just to see no one there. Suddenly, I heard jumping noises coming from my room, and when I took a peek into the room, I saw a pocong behind my curtain at my window. I shouted, panicking and sweating. I fell on the floor, and when I stood up, I looked into the room and the pocong disappeared. Suddenly, I heard the jumping noise again, and it sounded like it's coming from the kitchen. So very scared and planning to run out of my house, I slowly walked past the kitchen, and while walking out, I saw the pocong over there, beside the wall, peeking at me. So, I quickly ran out of the house, terrified and shouting. When I'm out of the house, I called my friend and asked him to meet me. After a few minutes, my friend arrived, and he asked me what happened, and I explained to him. Chong followed me back home from the graveyard and is at my house. So, scared also, we hatched a plan to go to a nearby coffee shop to stay for the whole night until it was morning, when I knew my parents came back home. So when it was the morning, I went back home to sleep. And after that one night, lucky nothing else strange happened, and also I did not tell my parents, fearing that they would scold me for visiting these haunted places and bringing back home ghosts. Till today, I can still remember this haunting encounter I had at home and at the graveyard. So, going to that cemetery is pretty scary. I've been there myself, and it is honestly one of the scariest experiences I have ever had, which is the cemetery ghost hunt capturing demons. I myself have also seen a Pontianak over there. So let's go to number 2, which is the Pontianak in front of the bed ghost story, the second most scariest ghost story of this season. Have a listen. So for the next story, the story is from Matt, not his real name, and it's via Instagram message. So this story happened to me 4 years ago in Pulau Tekong, and my BMT was in BMTC School 4, also known as Rocky Hill. So, School 4 is one of the camps inside Pulau Tekong. There's 4 of that. So, School 4 is the one all the way inside. Like, you need to take a tunnel, which is like a truck, to send you to your camp. So, the story starts here. My bed was beside the corridor, so I had a perfect view of the window. During the first few nights, everything was normal. All was okay. We had training, and when we got back to the bunk, we were too tired and we did not have any weird thoughts. Strange things started here when it was one Thursday night after the last parade. My friend and I went smoking with the group. When we were smoking, one of my friends looked on top of the shelter area. It was a random shelter area, so we did not think much. When my friend looked at it, he suddenly dropped his cigarette. So I jokingly asked him what's wrong. He froze for a while and whispered to me if I saw it. I asked him, "See what and where?" He pointed to the top of the shelter, and when I turned my head, what I saw was a Pontianak at the top of the shelter. So, the Pontianak was at the top of the shelter, looking at us with her white cloth swaying back and forth. I straight away shouted, and everyone looked at me. When I got everyone's attention, I did not say anything because I don't want people to see me as a weird guy. So, we went back to our bunk with my group and said nothing else. Suddenly, in the middle of the night, while I was sleeping, I woke up, and what I saw in front of my bed was the same Pontianak standing there, facing away from me. So what I did was to pray softly, and soon after I fall back asleep again. After that day, my friend and I, who saw the thing, developed a fever and we were very sick. Until today, I still cannot forget the terrifying experience at Rocky Hill that night while smoking. Okay, so that was pretty scary, right? It's a 2-part story. So there was one story from the viewer, another one is from one of the senders, so another viewer, and that is pretty scary, having, seeing the thing on top of like that shelter area, and after that going to sleep, and in the middle of the night waking up to a Pontianak standing in front of the bed. Wow. Woo. So let's go to number 1 ghost story, which is the Kum Kum ghost story. Let's go. This story is from Fika and it's called Kum Kum. So the story starts here when it was years ago when I was in secondary school. I finished school at about 1 p.m. in the afternoon, and after school my friends asked me if I wanted to go to the nearby mall to chill and eat. I said yes. We all went out to the nearby mall at Pasir. We went to a restaurant and ordered some food and started talking to one another. Suddenly, my friend took out a topic about ghosts, specifically about Kum Kum ghosts, as it is very famous at that time. So, my friend said that this ghost looks for young girls like ourselves to drink blood. As I am not a fan of these ghost stories, I told them to change the topic, but suddenly they talked about the sightings of the ghosts. My friend said that her friend saw this ghost at a block nearby my house one night when she was going home. She said her friend ran in the lift and ran straight into her house. When the door closed, she can hear someone knocking and saying Kum Kum. After hearing that, she ran up and showered to go to sleep. So, after hearing that story, I got a bit scared, and luckily the food came, so we stopped talking about that and started eating. After our meal, we found a void deck for us to chill, so we chilled at the void deck until it was roughly 6 p.m. When it was 6, a couple of us wanted to go home and call it a day, so I was left with my only best friend. So I usually walk my best friend home first, as my friend's house is on my way to my home. Upon reaching her block, we sat for a while and talked for roughly around 30 minutes, and soon after, I sent her off. When she reached her home safely, I went on my journey to my house. At that time, it was already 6:40 p.m. and the sky was getting dark. I then reached home soon after. After entering my house, I see no one at home. Then I suddenly remembered that my parents told me they're going out to find my cousins at their house. So not bothered by the loneliness, I went to shower and sat in the living room. At this time, it was 8 p.m. While watching TV, I suddenly heard someone knocking on my door. It was in Malay, so I thought it was my parents, until I heard the greeting again. It sounds very hollow, so I took a peek at a door hole and I saw a lady which looks like my mother wearing the headscarf, so I opened. When I opened the door, to my surprise, what I saw was an old makcik asking me if I'm interested in buying some crackers. Shocked, I replied no. Suddenly, she said, "You're not hungry?" I replied, "I'm not interested in the crackers." Suddenly, she asked me, "What about your friend behind you?" I asked, "What friend?" She then slowly laughed, and I quickly closed the door and went back to the living room, and suddenly I can hear banging on my door with her greeting. At that point, I was very angry, so I wanted to open the door and scold her. So, when I reached the door and opened it, what I saw was an old lady with her face all deformed and her eyes open wide. It looked scary and horrifying, and suddenly she greeted me. So I got scared and I fell to the floor and quickly closed the door once again. After that, I was taken aback. Suddenly, 1 minute it got quiet, and then the banging noise got more intense and louder, with her voice in the background greeting me, and laughter. So I quickly ran into my room and closed my door. When in my room, I drowned out the noise of the banging with some loud music. After ignoring the banging noise with all the loud music that I blasted, the sound stopped. And soon after, my parents came home. Till today, I'm not sure what I saw, but the thing that I saw at my house door looked terrifying. So that was the Kum Kum ghost story. Honestly, it is a very famous ghost, the Kum Kum ghost or whatever they call that. Yeah, it's a very famous ghost. Last time when I was young, I remember in the east side there was that one and Nenek Keropok. So experiencing that alone at home is really one of, I think, the most terrifying things that could happen to you when you're alone for that day. Yeah, and she was very young after school and that, so like not expecting anything weird. But after that, she got an uninvited visit from the Momo Kum Kum. So thank you guys for watching this video, and we have created, plus this one is the 30th supernatural stories. What I can say is congratulations to all of us. We receive a round of applause for spreading this amazing supernatural story show, and hope you guys can spread to your friends. Let's hit a big milestone. Let's bring this channel to 5,000 subscribers. It is possible, and hope you guys enjoy more of the supernatural stories and more of Most Haunted. So take care and good night. Bye bye.